Welcome to the Stay Paid Podcast, where we help agents and entrepreneurs master the latest business trends to unlock growth and create a life of freedom. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid. My name is Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Akery.
And we have an incredible episode for you all today. We're going to be talking about haters in the industry and get the founder of RE/MAX's insight on how to deal with enemies. We're talking about our sales and marketing strategy that will supercharge your relationships with your book. And of course, our listener Q&A, assuming we have some time here at the end. So make sure to stick around to the end. You're not going to want to miss this marketing strategy from our guest today. And speaking of guests, let me do the introduction. Stephen and Cody Smith of the Akery Brothers Realty team. Well, Stephen Akery and Cody Smith. I don't want to give you guys, like, you're not together. You're two individual people. Stephen Akery.
You guys got your own identity.
The number one team in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I got to say, the best marketing on planet Earth these guys have.
Little biased.
The best marketing plan. I got to meet the people who do your marketing. And our guest of honor today is probably, other than maybe Stephen, the most referenced guest in Stay Paid history. He's a national speaker, a top producing agent, consultant, one of the most influential real estate leaders, as named by Inman News, and an overall really good guy. He's here to build relationships, solve problems, and have fun. Mr. Sean Carpenter, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you? Good to see you. Josh and Luke again. Cody and Stephen, good to meet you guys, and excited to have a conversation.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on. Josh is not lying. You are probably one of the most referenced, if not the most referenced guest. I've learned so much from you over the years. We were just talking before we came on the show. It's been like 5-6 years ago that you started listening to our show and tweeting out. Then we had you as a guest. And then, your knowledge base is just, so broad. You speak on so many different subjects, and you've been a great thought leader. I would love to dive right in to getting your take. I was kind of mentioning this before we jumped on. It feels like, because we work with thousands of agents spread across the country, and it feels like, depending on who I talk to, you have at least half, it more feels like 80% of the market right now of real estate agents in complete just panic, excuse mode, depression, don't want to spend any money. We're in marketing, so maybe I'm a little biased to this. It's just like, the market's rough, the lawsuit's happening, I can't spend any money on my business. I go, well, if a restaurant closes its lights or closes its sign and turns off its lights, it's not going to attract anybody, right? So in real estate, if you don't market your business, you're not going to get any. I'm curious, you travel all over the nation. What are you seeing as the feel of agents out there, Sean? And what are you thinking in the new age of this lawsuit and everything that's going on?
Well, not a lot of travel in the summertime, just because there's just not a lot of real estate events around the country, mostly in the spring and, into the summer. And then obviously the fall is big convention season. But the agents I coach here in Columbus and Cincinnati, I'm feeling that the agents that are staying actively engaged in front of their spheres of influence, their network, their past clients, they're still thriving. I think it's the agents that are, I was trying to think of a metaphor. It's the agents that are like playing Mario Brothers and they're looking for a mushroom, or they're looking for some little cheat code.
I remember this.
Instead of just advancing through the levels, right? Instead of just doing what works. And I know, being a regular listener of the show, that's what I like about the way Steven's built his business is he just consistently blocks and tackles. And so many people, as the market's shifting, they keep looking for some sort of silver bullet or magic pill, and there is none, right? I've been in the business now 27 years, Luke, and it goes back to, there is no silver bullet, right? And that is the thing I talk about, in my presentations. Silver bullet, and back in the old days of poker, was the ace of spades, right? If you had the ace of spades in your hand, if there was ever a tie, that broke all ties, right? It was kind of the highest card in the deck, and I think that is, in 27 years, I figured out that is the silver bullet. Ace, ACE, attitude controls everything, right? Think about that. If you look at that card the other way, flip it over, everything controls attitude.
Yeah, that's great, man. That is freaking.
And as the market continues to change and evolve, and more excuses get put on the shelf for people, Luke, with interest rates and now we got the election coming up, and now we got the settlement coming up, and now we got competitors coming in, and now we got this, and now we got that. Attitude controls everything. And so many people in our industry let everything control their attitude. And so, there is no silver bullet, but if there is one, I think that's it. Attitude controls everything. And the agents that I know locally and nationally that are staying focused on building relationships and solving problems and having fun, they're thriving.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's why I love how you put that ACE. Stephen, like you guys have a great culture, at least it seems you do from afar. You know what I mean? Because I'm not in it every day. How do you guys implement that ACE concept of attitude controls everything in your business, or do you agree, disagree?
So, I look at it like, as we run our business where we don't have any standards, right? You don't have to show up to the sales meeting. You don't have to come to the morning huddles. You don't have to be in the office from a certain time making calls. And I've noticed that, like, obviously you are the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And so just by this last year, it's just changed completely for us. Like, our whole culture has shifted. And what I didn't realize I was doing in the past was I was not creating standards for the agents. And so if you leave them to their own devices and they don't have to be surrounded by you, right? They don't have to show up to the sales meeting in the huddle. It's just they're not around the people that have the right mindset, right? And then they let everything control their attitude. And therefore, then you pull off the activities. And when people aren't making money, that's when you have a disaster on your hands. Like, I've just noticed it over the years. It's like people can present things to your face constantly, but if they're not making money, they will change in the flip of a switch. You know what I mean? It would be like, you're the greatest thing ever. You're the greatest thing ever. I'm not making money. And then all of a sudden it's gone. You know what I mean? And you lose everything. So yeah, the thing that controls it for us is the standards, right? If we have people where you have to show up to the sales meeting, right? Where you have to be with the team making calls. This is a team, this isn't a me thing, right? And so that's really helped us this last year in creating such a great culture. It's actually been with higher standards, not less standards. And we're looking at that even this year going, hey, we need to have bigger standards. Right. We just watched a team on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast, and they were talking about their standards, 30 transactions for their team. They have 10 producing agents. And if you looked at their average of transactions, they're actually doing over 30 transactions per person. And we're looking at that going, people will be happy when they're making money. Right. And the standards are what do that. Right.
How many agents did they have?
They have 10 agents. Wow. Yeah, 10 agents. I think I ran the average. It was like 50 per agent, 50 transactions.
What have you guys found? Like the big problem is your top producers a lot of times are the ones after they start making it, they want to lax off. I don't know if you've seen this, Sean, and kind of the teams that you've worked with or agents that you've coached. It's like your top producer doesn't want to show up to the meeting anymore. And now you're faced with this conflict because they have more respect than you do, because they're the one closing the deals. And I see this in our own business, Reminder Media. We don't even sell real estate. It's like the top producer is all of a sudden the one who doesn't want, I don't need to. I can, I don't need to make that meeting or whatever. How do you guys approach that? I know there's no magic bullet there, but how do you approach that, Sean?
I do find in a lot of my company events that I do, where I know the majority of the agents, in the industry or in the company, it's surprising, but a lot of the top agents are the ones that are there at the event early, meeting people, thanking the leadership, sit in front row with a notepad or their iPad out taking notes, knowing that they can always sharpen the saw. I mean, I can hear that in episode after episode of Stephen talking about he was at this event, he was on this podcast, he was listening to this webinar. Constantly look either to remind ourselves of what works. That's the key with my whole philosophy of the basics is so many people come up to me and they're like, man, Sean, I used to do everything you said today. So it was nothing new. I just had to hear it again. Right. It's kind of like for those of us that are Christian, every year around Christmas time, the priest is going to give the same story of a baby in a manger. Right. And why does he do that when we've heard it? Because it just reminds us that we got to get back to what we know works. And so I think that's I love the standards thing. Luke, you talk about sports all the time. I use a lot of sports analogies. I mean, Jordan and Kobe, in the gym early, staying late. I'm a huge golfer. You look at the best golfers and they go out and they shoot 64 on a weekend. And instead of going to the bar and drinking beers, they go to the driving range because they missed one shot in their round that might come up tomorrow. And they just want to be prepared for it. And so it's that constantly. That's why I think my 4-H club that we'll talk about later works, because it just starts your day off, in a way that puts seeds in the ground that could turn into business, right? Every one of us that's in real estate, in sales really, needs to act like a farmer, right? A farmer doesn't wake up one day and say, I wish I had a crop, and then tomorrow they have a crop. They got to get up and put seeds in the ground. They got to water. They got to fertilize. They got to get their hands dirty. They got to be in the field, right? And that's what the best agents need to do.
You speak of Jordan, right? And the famous story that I always love with Michael Jordan, that if people haven't heard this, I think it's the best story. It was Tony Robbins was interviewing Jordan one time and asked Jordan, who made the most impact on your life? And it shocked Tony Robbins, the answer, not in the sense of Tony didn't expect it, but in the sense of like, I was like, wow, it really is true. Jordan pointed out his high school basketball teacher that basically said he couldn't make the team. And Jordan had the attitude of, what are you saying? I can't make the team. I'm the most talented. I'm more talented than all these other people, is how Tony describes it. And the coach said, yeah, but you lack what you're talking about, Sean, which is that attitude, right? You lack the heart. You lack the showing up. And he said, basically, I hope this is a true story because it is really powerful. But he goes, basically, if you show up for the next year, and you show up and you put in, the effort and you show up on time to every practice, blah, 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 I'll guarantee you a spot starting in next year's team. And Jordan references that person as making the most impact. And the reason why that story is so powerful is because Jordan doesn't reference the fan cheering him on from the stands. Jordan doesn't reference his mom and his dad basically telling him he's the best. He doesn't reference people that lifted him up. He referenced somebody that told him he wasn't performing at the way he needed to. And if you think about the people who made a difference in your life from a coaching standpoint, normally you don't like them in the moment, but you look back and you go, that person challenged me. And because they challenged me, it made me think different. It made me act different, right? And it made a difference in my life. That is what I have found to be true over the years. And I think of Jordan, and I think of the attitude controls everything, and it fits right in to that whole philosophy.
Yeah. And I love that story because it goes standards toward what their motivation is, right? You want to be a starting five on the basketball team, or here's how you get there. So same with the team. It's like we have these standards in place, but it's because you have a goal you want to get to, right? You want to make this amount of money. You want to get to this amount of place, buy this investment properties, whatever it is. But this standard is in place to make you really successful because that's what you want, right?
Yeah. Right. I've been on to play on that because I'm coaching somebody on your team right now. And I don't know what you guys think of this, but I've been challenging people a lot on the integrity they have with themselves, because I'm finding like the why is almost lacking because people have heard it too much at this point, because it's like, hey, you got to understand your goal. You got to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And so I set that with people. But then what I'm doing is when they don't do it, I'm basically challenging them to say, hey, are you a person that does what you say you do? Are you a person that keeps your word to yourself? Don't even mean to me. I mean to you. Like, do you keep your word? And everybody's like, yeah, I want to be that person. Perfect. Well, when you set that standard and you didn't keep it, like, of course it hurts me because I'm trying to coach. I don't want to waste my time, but it hurts you. You're lying to yourself. And I have found that to be more powerful.
Well, and figuring out the personality of each person, right? I mean, I know Steven's got a team, and there's a lot of teams listening to this. There's a lot of individuals listeners. What's going to get you to that gym in the morning? Is it that you don't want to fail, or that you want to win? Right. I mean, you talk about Jordan, wanting to kind of prove to his coach that he could do it. Well, there's other people that say I succeeded because I had a coach who believed in me and and I showed up almost to reinforce his belief.
That's a great point.
And the problem in coaching is when you get that
it's almost
belief
misalignment.
Systems that don't work, right? Yep. If a coach says, well, that's all, you can probably only do 25 deals a year, Steven. Well, then Steven goes home thinking like, well, yeah, maybe I can only do 25 deals a year. Maybe he's right. Maybe I can't do it. So it's that law of limiting belief that, whereas if I say, Steven, dude, I believe you can get 65 deals. And you're thinking like, no, man, I can only do 25. And I go, dude, let's get to 26. But and all of a sudden he's like, man, Sean believes in me. And then you do 26, then you do 30, then you do 45. Then all of a sudden it's like, man, and you keep reinforcing that, you ask an engineer, a bumblebee should not be able to fly, right? A bumblebee, based on its body weight, its fuselage, so to speak, is too big for the wings that it has. But who doesn't know that? The bee. So what's the bee do? The bee flies. The bee says, hey, if I just fly, and then guess what? It knows how to fly. And so that limiting belief, I think, is powerful.
That's fantastic.
That is really good.
Well, that's sort of a soft transition into the headline of the week, because the headline of the week, we're talking about haters here. So this was Grant Cardone had the founder of RE/MAX, Dave Liniger, on his podcast, The Cardone Zone. And they talked about a ton of stuff over the hour-long interview. Go check it out. I know BAM posted it. BAM Media posted that on their website. They talked about house flipping, talked about sales and marketing. But one thing that stood out was Dave talking about the value of having enemies in the industry. So from the interview, just a quick kind of recap to give a context. Dave said that in 1971, the industry hated him for changing the business model where more money would end up going to the agent. I think like up to 85% of the commission would go to the agent. So this meant that everyone else was now going to have to pay more to their agents with a much higher commission split. So basically talking about how he had all these people hating him, saying he was a crook, etc., and use those haters to fuel him to prove that his ideal would work. So it's kind of going off what we were just talking about there a little bit in a different way, not from a coach kind of challenging you, but into outside forces like wanting
it gets
you to
into
fail.
Michael Burt, Coach Burt, for those who don't know him, should look him up. He talks about activating your prey drive.
Yeah.
And like there's different avenues of activating your prey drive, which he considers to be your motivation. That's what he calls it. He wrote a book called Prey Drive. And, I think about like the haters, just like Michael Jordan, we referenced him, watch The Last Dance. He took every slight against him, every bump, every shove, everything that was said, and he basically stacked it as his motivation of like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you wrong. And you see that, at least in athletics, you see that a lot of like Tom Brady, if you watch his interview with Patrick Bet-David, he would basically try to rile up the locker room, and he would love when they said bad things or they had somebody cocky on the other team, because he would basically be like, they said what about us? They did what? And you can imagine Tom Brady's not the most intimidating guy, honestly, but saying that stuff to basically stack against you. And I have found in myself, the thing that motivates me the most some days is when I'm not feeling motivation, I just pull up some of our competitors. I don't even want to mention here to give them show, like airtime. I don't even want to mention them, but I'll pull up. We have this one competitor now that is like, it is like ripping off our language, like the copy we use for marketing, our colors, like everything we're doing. The magazine is identical. Like I even think they took one of our cover options, but it's designed exactly the same. And they're just doing it a little cheaper, right? And you just go, well, it's the sincerest form of flattery, but it motivates you, because what I have found is like the death of all business is complacency. The death even in your life, in your relationship, right? In your health is complacency. And when you get into complacency, that's when the enemy can take you over.
Yeah. You told him that, rip off and duplicate. So
I know I'm the one who's given him that
on multiple podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
We're talking about this because we've been talking about what's the biggest motivator. So that's one of mine. Yeah. Is like, dude, someone tells me I can't do something. Right.
Well, now I know Luke. I know Luke has haters because I've seen his Instagram DMs. Have you guys run into haters? Like, is this something that has been challenging?
They're usually not on the forefront. It's usually you hear it from word of mouth.
Yeah,
you're like, true. I thought that person liked me. Like, dang it.
Yeah, that is very true. No, we don't get much of direct hate.
Yeah.
But yeah, you hear it from the side, like, oh, this person's doing this or what, and you got to have your goal in mind. You got to have, and also being surrounded. Going back to around the people that's going to motivate you too. To keep you toward those goals.
Yeah, but I've found it is so true. It's so funny how until you experience it, you really don't understand if you're not growing, you're dying. And like, you just realize that as a business, if there's no momentum to grow and create other opportunities for people to grow their inside your world, you're on the fast track down. Because if you have winners on your team, they're going to want to grow as well. And they will leave you. That's the top producer, like you were talking about, that leaves the team. It's just the one that wants to win, and you're not growing fast enough for them to improve their world.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, do you get hate out on the road? I can't imagine somebody hating.
I was going to say how.
You're like,
you're a beautiful man.
Yeah, I'm liked by everyone, I swear.
You would hope not, but sometimes I do feel that people question, well, that's not going to work, or that's old school. Or, they always look, because once again, maybe they have that mentality of, I've got to do something shinier, newer, technology driven. And so I firmly believe that there is a new school of success. There's an old school success, and the agent that can put their feet in both camps is going to be the one that's going to continue to win. There are other speakers, other coaches that do more business than I do, but I'm not competing with them. Right. When I speak to a room full of 500 or 50 or whatever, I'm not talking to the guy who's sitting like this, right? I'm talking to the guy who's leaning forward, taking notes, right? And the problem is, as a speaker, Luke, we sometimes focus on the guy who's sitting back with his arms crossed, because we want everyone to like us and we want everybody to stand up and cheer. But it's like, no, how about talking to the 49 that are paying attention, not worry about the one who's sleeping in the back, right? And Dave Liniger's the article that you guys referenced, our business is built on competition, right? We're competing with other brokerages. So right, you're seeing that right now in our industry, right? There's some new models coming in, and the old school models are saying like, oh, I would never be in that model. And then the people that are in the new models are like, I love the new model. And at the end of the day, listen to the words we use. We won an offer. We lost an offer. We won a listing. We lost a listing. Instead of saying I got a listing, or my buyer's offer wasn't accepted, which means it wasn't the right house for them. Right. Just kind of, once again, flipping that mindset of, let's get back out there. So competition's great, but competition, I think you've talked about before on the podcast, Luke, it doesn't have to be in a finite game. It can be an infinite game.
Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
So that's why I love Steven and Cody's approach is let's get everybody in there pushing each other so that when Sally gets a listing or Mike gets a listing, it's like, all right, it's not that I can't get a listing because Mike did get a listing. So I just got to go out and get, I just didn't get that one. And so.
They're going around cheering like we did this morning. And we went door knock. We had a door knocking session on Friday. It's like 5 or 6 guys on our team got a listing appointment and got the listing yesterday. Yeah. So we're all going around cheering.
That's amazing.
Luke, going back to that, I got an interesting question for you. It's like going back to the RE/MAX model, how you talked about how he moved into an industry where he's like, or a place in this industry where he's like, I want to make more for the agents, right? And we've been slowly, but if you even think about RE/MAX, RE/MAX is behind Keller Williams, and then Keller Williams now is behind EXP when it comes to giving more to their agents. I think that we've actually shifted so far. It's kind of like the conversation about the Alex Ramosi influencers, right? We've gotten to a place where there's so many influencers out there that now people are looking for the authentic right now. And so we're kind of shifting back to that long form content. I almost feel like in this industry that we're shifting back to go to the place where now brokerages are being like freaking losing money, right? The agent has taken all of the money away from the brokerage and to where they can't operate, that we're going to almost shift back into this model where it's, I don't want to say like less for the agents and stuff like that, but it's actually the agent is suffering by taking so much and try to get so much from their brokerage and their team and all that good stuff, that we're going to almost shift back into a more authentic, place where it's like, you got to make both sides win. I'm curious at your thoughts on that. Like if that question made sense to you.
Yeah, it's every industry, every business, everything goes to a commodity. Like everything, it's a race downhill. Once you start the pricing game, whether it's, in print or any marketing, and that's why they teach you in like business, it's like, don't lower your price, raise your price, and don't go to the race to the bottom of the commodity, because in the end you get short-term gain, but you lose long-term. And I think what you'll find, and this is why Keller Williams, one of the things that made them great, I think for years, and maybe they're shifting back, maybe they're not, I don't know, is they focused on education. And they focused on, like the value they give to the agent from an actual like education standpoint or from a value standpoint that way, instead of a price standpoint, because the price only wins short term, which you're going to see with a lot of these brokerages, but it doesn't win long term. So I think it will shift back, but I think it's like every business. Like postcards went to the bottom when it came to money you could make off of postcards. You're going to see it. I hate to say it with magazines. We're going to see it with magazines. We had no competition. Now we at least have 10 other companies doing it. People are trying to undercut with pricing. Like it's just a race to the bottom. And so what you have to do as a business is, okay, if I can't win at this game from the agent, that like money I'm making or giving to that agent, or money I'm making off of postcards that I'm selling or whatever, what other value can I offer to this person that would make it worth it for them to stay? Where Keller Williams really lost to EXP, I don't think was in the money. Where they really lost to EXP was EXP went in and got the Stephen Acres. And because they got the Stephen Acreys and they started to get momentum by getting the top agents all around the country, and then they got PR because we know it's marketing. It's not really you have to be the best, you have to be the most known. So they started advertising that we have the greatest, the Kyle Whistles, the Dan Bears, the Candace Deckers. Like we have the greatest, and proof is in the pudding. Look, these are top teams in all these areas. So where people joined EXP because they're like, oh, I'm going to make extra money, but they were convinced because they're like, well, if Dan Bear's there, and he can provide me this value in my downline. It was really the education that won for EXP is my.
Well, but
my
that's
opinion.
also, I'll push back or I'll speak up on the panel as a traditional blue blood big box broker, that I'm with. It's like Live versus PGA Tour. There's all stars on all sides, right? I can talk about the Christoph Chews and the Jill Biggs and the Tim Smiths with Cole Banker, and there's great agents with Keller Williams and great agents with Remax. There's great agents because there's great agents that are just. It doesn't matter what color they have. It comes down to, I think, Stephen, what's the story the brokerage, the owner, the team manager is selling on the tools, the products, the systems, the services, the training, the support, when was the last time brokers and managers out there, when was the last time you reached out and sent a thank you note to the spouse of your top agent?
Yeah.
Right? When was the last time you sent a Uber to pick up your top agent and his spouse to go to dinner on your dime to say thank you for all the hard work and time and effort you're putting in, right?
Yeah.
Those are huge things that sometimes it's like, I don't care what brokerage you're with, make me feel welcome, make me feel important, make me feel recognized, like you were saying, Cody, the high fives and the cheering on other people. All of a sudden people are like, you know what? People don't leave companies, they leave leaders because there is no leadership, right? Let me tell you a quick story. I used to be a beer salesman, and I called on the Ohio State campus, was my territory. And I had this one restaurant where I had to go in and sell beer, and they bought one keg of Miller Lite every week from me. And I said to my boss, I said, why do I have to keep going to the store when can we just put them on telephone sales? They're just going to get one keg. He goes, let me tell you why you're going to go in there every single week and smile and thank them for their one keg a week. Because before OSU football games, there's this place called Heinegate. That's where it's held. It's this place. 7 home games a year. Ohio State, one of the biggest football programs in the country, massive tailgate. He goes, we used to have exclusive rights for Miller Lite at the Heinegate until one time one of our drivers was rude to that guy, and immediately the next day Budweiser got the account.
Wow.
He says, you're going to keep going in there and keep showing up because one day the Budweiser driver is going to be a jerk.
Yeah.
One day the Budweiser sales rep is not going to show up.
Dude, that is
going to be back in the game. So,
that comes back to your point, Luke, of just winning. It is that. It's like you get the winners on your team for momentum forward, and that's the growth trajectory.
Well, Sean, that's why you're so good. The way you framed it is telling the story. Whatever brokerage is, because that's why I think EXP won. Because it wasn't about the money you make, because I think that's what you could. The next one was what Real is taking off right now. It's the story that's being told, and who do you get evangelizing that message? That's really the key.
Yeah. And who's your? It comes down to who's your partnership. Right? Who do you feel like they're in partnership with to surround yourself with? I mean, we all recognize NASCAR drivers, but there's 45 guys on that person's team, right? We recognize the golfer, Bryson DeChambeau holding the trophy, but there's 15 people on his team getting him, he's the one swinging the ball and making the shots. Luke, Steven's the one converting that homeowner to say, I trust you. Let's list it with you. But there's so many people behind the scenes that are making that possible. And that goes to the brokerage level and all the way up to,
That's well
each
said.
one of us represents all of us at the end of the day, right? If someone from XYZ real estate is a jerk or unethical to a client, that hurts everyone that's listening to this. If someone goes out there and does an amazing job taking care of a 50-year-old widower who just lost her husband, and helped them sell their house, that helps everyone, so.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it rolling, Sean, with our marketing and sales strategy of the week. There we go. Yeah. We got the lights and the music.
Let's go. Yeah, I can't wait for you to talk about this, man. The 4-H Club.
4-H Club.
This is probably the first show you came on. You mentioned this, and it stuck with me. And I said this before we came on too. It's like you're the one person that's come on the show that's actually practiced what they preached to me. Like you send me cards, you text me, you do exactly what your 4-H club is really all about. Can you walk people through what the 4-H club is and how they could do it?
Yeah. Listen, the cool thing about real estate is it's different every day. Bad thing about real estate, it's different every day. Right. And so many people that get into our business, they love the fact that it's different every day, but then they have no consistency in their routines. And so when I left my director of education role and went back to being a sales agent in 2016, I basically said, look, I got to start doing what I taught agents to do for years. And that's put seeds in the ground that could turn into business next week, next month, or next year, that farmer mentality, Luke. And so I said, if I can just create a system that I can follow every day, because real estate is different every day. So if I had that routine early in my day, so I created what's called the 4-H club, and I used kind of the 4 H's, that you heard in farming, right? But I said 4 H's. All right. So what can I do every day that puts seeds in the ground? And so the first H is I do 5 handwritten notes a day. If I'm not traveling on the road, I do 5 old school handwritten notes a day. I go to the dollar store and get cards that are blank on the insides. I have some personalized cards. I go on Vistaprint with my slogan, build relationships, solve problems, have fun. I can use branded cards if I want, but I do 5 handwritten notes a day. Now let me talk about this for a second. I always start my day by saying, is there someone from yesterday that I need to thank? Because a thank you note's the easiest note to write in the world. It writes itself basically. So I had cocktails last night with a client of mine to pick his brain on something for my family. So I sent him a thank you note saying, thanks for meeting up with me. And I got 4 more ready to go out to 4 other people in my sphere. All right. You all know when you get home today and check your mailbox, if there's 5 things in there, right? You got your reminder, you got your American Lifestyles magazine, and then 4 other things. If one of the handwritten note, you're opening that first. Yep. Mm-hmm. Most people are probably going to read it a second time. You're probably going to leave it on the counter for your spouse or partner to read. Some people have a junk drawer or a special basket where they keep their handwritten notes from people. So that's the first H. The second H is the hot sheet, right? Most agents probably are doing the hot sheet anyway. The hot sheet is basically the newest listings that have hit the market in my town, the price changes, the end contracts, the closings, in some cases, the cancellations or withdrawals. I look through the hot sheet not for all of Columbus. There's 1.6 million people here. I look for the hot sheet for Upper Arlington, the town where I live. And I look at the first time I look through it as a realtor, I put my real estate hat on and say, all right, what's coming soon? I educate myself on the market. And then I look through it a second time and I say, who do I know that lives within a couple blocks of that property? Who lives in that subdivision, in that community, and if someone pops, let's say Cody, I'm like, oh, Cody lives in that. I'm going to send Cody a text or a phone call or a email from the MLS that just says, hey, Cody, there's a new listing in your neighborhood, 1234 Jackson Street. Just want to let you know, P.S. will I see you at the club this weekend? Or, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to sell it, guys. I'm just trying to make sure that Cody knows when he thinks real estate in his neighborhood, he should think of me, right? The third H is happy birthdays. I'll go onto Facebook and see which of my friends are having birthdays. I'll send them a message on Facebook. And if they're close friends of mine, as you know, Luke, they're going to get a video text message. A video text message simply, where I turn my phone on and I say, Stephen, hey, it's Sean Carpenter over in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, just want to wish you a happy birthday today. Hope you get lots of love and attention from your friends and fans. And hope you have a good year ahead. Look forward to catching up soon. And as always, keep building relationships, solving problems, and having fun. Just a quick little personalized message.
You do that all the time, too, with our podcast or different things that you've heard have happened to me, like when I spoke or whatever, got that speaking gig, because you knew that was important to me. Like you've shot me those videos all the time. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it just, look, when we all react to our video, to our text messages, as it buzzes, as it bings. And when you see a video in there, you're like, oh, what's that? And it's going to get probably open more. It's going to get reacted more. And most people then when they watch the video, they're going to respond back to me. Mm-hmm. So I can't tell you how many times people are like, thanks, Carp. Always look forward to this every year, or best message of the day, because HBD, at some point you say WTF, that's all you sent me. And then the last H of so I got my handwritten notes, got my hot sheet, got my happy birthdays, and what I call my high fives. I'm already on Facebook. So I'm going to do 5 likes on Facebook. I'm going to do 5 comments on Facebook. I'm going to jump over and do 5 comments or retweets on Twitter. I'm going to jump over and do 5 comments on Instagram, either on stories or on people's feeds. And I'm going to do 5 text messages. 5 people on my phone are going to get a text message. It could be something as simple as have an awesome day, a funny GIF, a meme, just, hey, great job. Congratulations to the Panthers on their win last night. Congratulations to the Volunteers winning the College World Series, whatever it might be. And then once I do that, I go get my morning coffee. All right. That's my reward
for putting seeds in the ground. Now, let me recap.
How long
this,
does that
guys.
whole routine take before you recap that?
So Josh, it's probably 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Could be an hour. But think about this. If I do 5 handwritten notes, let's say 2 people on the hot sheet today. Let's say I had 13 birthdays on Facebook today, and then my 25 touches because it's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Stephen, let me ask you a question. If your guys on your team made 45 touches a day before 10 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, guys, that's 235 people in my book hearing from Sean Carpenter. And how many of those were about real estate? How many of those were pitches about real estate? Yeah. Really only the hot sheet were even about real estate, but they weren't even a pitch. It was just getting my name top of mind through one of those seeds in the ground, right? Across their phone, in their mailbox, on their social media page, 5 days a week. And so, now there's people out there saying like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start. I've never done it before, but I'm going to start doing it. Well, maybe you do 1 handwritten note a day, right? I've had people tell me they can't do the 4-H club, Luke. And I say, why can't you do it? And they go, because I don't do Twitter. I said, man, you're missing the forest for the trees there. You can still do handwritten notes. You can still do the hot sheet. You can still do happy birthdays. You can do Facebook likes, Facebook comments. You can do Instagram comments. Maybe you do LinkedIn comments, right? And you do 5 text messages. It's just putting seeds in the ground so that someone might think of me tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year.
Right? Yeah, it's beautiful.
Cody and Josh, you guys know, if everyone on your team right now sent a handwritten note, and if I told them, write a handwritten note today, and I guarantee it's going to turn into business. I don't know when. Might be next month. Could be next year. But if I told you for sure it's going to turn into a referral or a lead, would you send it? And 100% of people say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yet so few people do.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I like that question too, Josh, because if it only takes you an hour in the morning too, like some of our agents that are really top producers are coming in at 6:30 in the morning, so they could knock that out before we start the day and start making our phone calls. That'd be beautiful.
It's funny.
And think about that when you do the high fives, when you're on the social media, you might see something that makes you say like, I'm not just going to like this comment. I'm going to pick up the phone and call Cody and wish him good luck in his daughter's soccer tournament up in DC this weekend, right? Or whatever it might be. Or I'm going to be in the area where I'm going to see Steven and I'm going to drop off this book that I just finished because he references wanting to read more of that, whatever. I mean, it just gives you so many opportunities. And once again, just like a farmer, I don't know when the crop is coming, but the crop won't come if I don't put seeds in the ground.
Love that.
It's
I love how you're also the business owner and you're doing that too. So it's like, this is not just obviously a real estate thing. It's not just about selling houses. It's about relationships. And we need to implement that more, even like for our agents, if we're recruiting, right? That's what we should be doing. If we're starting a mortgage company, that's what we should be doing. That's a good note.
Your agent, Tim, was on with my sales team this morning, Steve. So I was having him speak to our sales team just to tell him about, his experience in real estate and with our products, stuff like that. And we had talked about how when he first got into real estate, he had mentioned, I was reaching out to everybody in my sphere because that's what you guys were having him do. That's what I was having him do. And he said, it didn't really turn into any business. It ultimately, like right away, or even that I could track from the standpoint of like, oh yeah, 6 months from there, I got a deal. He goes, but you know what it did? It created my whole sphere started to know me as Tim in real estate. And it started to get my bubble to talk about me as the real estate guy. And he goes, and they started to follow me on Facebook. And he goes, I just remember inviting all the people in my church to lunch or coffee and making the phone calls. And he said, and 13 months later, he's done 51 pending and closed.
Yeah.
And first year in real estate. So it's like,
guys, let me share a quick story about the power of the 4-H club. So I had a closing that closed. It was a little over a year ago that closed. But this was someone from the country club where I was a member at the time. Right. And it was a difficult deal. It was a divorce situation, always an unfortunate situation, regardless of how it's working out. But it was a challenging deal. There was some frustration, there was some miscommunication, there was some anger, but at the end of the transaction, when it got closed, the client called me and said, hey, Carp, I want to let you know, first of all, I appreciate the hard work. I'm glad we got it done. But can I tell you why I picked you to be my agent? I was like, yeah. And he goes, as you know, at the club, I know probably 15 other realtors. For 16 years, you've been sending my mailbox a handwritten note to me and to my wife that you'd never met and to my kids you'd never met. And you just always were touching base with me and congratulate me on things that happened in my life. And at the end of the day, I thought this guy's consistency to handwrite me a note every day was worth it to give him a chance to help me get to my next step. And I think back and I probably sent, let's just say 25 handwritten notes over that time at 50 cents on average a postage and a couple minutes of time. Amazing. Right. Yeah. What an ROI times 12,000, you know?
Yep. It's the discipline, man. It's the freaking discipline. That's what it is. That's what you have. That's what the greatest have. It's like the discipline to do it every day. And I love how you reward yourself with the coffee after.
Yeah. I like you're still doing that. I wasn't sure if you were still waiting.
That's so good.
No, and
I'm surprised it's not a beer, though, dude. I'm surprised it's not a beer. I mean, I guess it is early in the morning.
Well, now, I will say the 4-H Club does work sometimes in the afternoons where if I have a morning meeting or a tour or whatever's going on, I'm playing golf in the morning, that I do try and maybe I could do my 4-H Club at a local brewery.
Do you ever run out of...
sit there and I can jump on my phone and do likes and comments and guys, it's the comments I think that are gold. It's the free tip that I want people to take from this episode is when you go on Instagram, look at your friends like posts and they'll have like 65 likes and no comments, 77 likes and 1 comment. Right? If I comment on Cody's picture of his daughter's soccer team winning their game this weekend because there's no other comments, and I comment right now saying, congratulations, I bet your daughter's super excited. Did she score a goal? ? On his phone, he's going to get a little notification that says Sean Carpenter just commented on your Instagram post. He's going to then I'm in his top of mind. He's going to go to his Instagram post to see what I said. He's going to like my comment. He's going to comment back. No, she didn't score a goal, but she had 2 assists. Hopefully she'll score in next week's championship game. I then comment back saying, good luck to her and the team. And now if I'm smart, I drop by with, some Gatorade or some oranges or whatever the day of the game and say, hey, bring these to the team, to the girls team, whatever. I mean, the little touches that all of a sudden just the comments guys can turn into the next comment, and I take it to a different channel. And now I'm just earning that consistent top of mind. Because listen, everyone
John Rulin talks about this a lot. It's like what you're getting into is like, you're doing the unexpected. So to comment is unexpected in one regard, very low, but in one regard, because everybody likes, nobody comments. To comment with a question is even more unexpected because most people just comment, but you're not expected to engage, but you comment it with a sincere, actual question. Then if you took it to the next level in that example of dropping off Gatorade, oranges, even simply following up the day of the championship game, good luck, thinking about you guys today. It's the unexpected. And if you think about what creates a raving fan, I do talks on this all the time. It's the unexpected. What makes you write a bad review? The unexpected happened to you. What makes you write a good review? The unexpected happened to you. So if you can somehow find out ways in your business and in your journey to do the unexpected, you'll create what is that buzz that Brian Buffini talks about or John Rulin and stuff that creates impact with people.
Awesome. Gentlemen, Sean, as always, thank you so much for your time here on the podcast today. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you.
Listen, you can find me on all the socials. I'm at Sean Carp on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter's probably my first and foremost channel. I start my day and end my day there. But my blog, SeanCarpenter.com. That's SEAN, Carpenter.com. Maybe you guys can leave it in the show notes. I've been blogging at carpscorner.net. You can get there by either site. My last blog post I wrote on Monday, guys, was my 1,255th blog post. Woo! So that's crazy. You talk about consistency.
Yeah, killing it.
I blog about building relationships and solving problems and having fun. My audience is real estate agents, brokers, owners, managers, people in their industry. But so sometimes I'm talking about sales ideas. Sometimes I'm talking about playing golf with my son and maybe how does that relate to the business? I talked this week about playing bad in my event at my course this weekend. And I just kind of converted it to, sometimes in real estate, our day doesn't go well, but as the Grateful Dead says in the song Truckin', hang it up and see what tomorrow brings. And so I take these little ideas and stories and messages and so definitely check me out on my blog, and it's got the information about my speaking opportunities and sessions I do there.
Yeah. I checked your blog before you came on because I'm like, I wonder if he's still blogging as consistently. And I read one, it was like June 24th. I checked it yesterday. And then I was like, well, I don't know if that's really June 24th. I went to the second one down. It was Pinehurst. It was about Pinehurst. I was like, oh man, you are
it's amazing.
Still consistently blogging. I
literally blog every Sunday night and it comes in your email inbox on Monday morning. It's called my Monday morning match. And it's just designed to spark spark an energy or an idea. A lot of managers reach out and tell me they use it for their sales meetings, or they share it with their team. Sometimes
and you've played some cool golf courses.
Yeah, you really have, man.
over your time. Awesome, Sean. Well, thank you again. Stephen, Cody, thank you guys as always.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys.
Good to see you again and get your insights for this. Thank you all so much for listening. You can dive deeper this episode, get the show notes here in the episode, or you can go to staypaidpodcast.com. If you like this episode and want to share your support, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Drop us a 5-star review. The best way to support the show is to simply share this episode with someone you know. Sean, you're a fan of dad jokes. You got anything loaded? You want to do the honors for this episode? I have a backup in case you don't have it. It's actually from you. You sent me this dad joke.
Oh, dang.
No way.
Inception, dude.
Don't blame people for the road you're on.
No,
That's your own ass fault.
I do like that one. This one was you get a bonus one. What's a hippie's wife called? Do you remember the answer?
I don't.
Mississippi.
I love it.
God, the show's going downhill fast, guys.
If you want to get a hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com, or you can message us and follow us on Instagram. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, Stephen and Cody. Awesome. Sean, you're the real deal. I'd encourage everybody, go follow him. Go listen to his thought leadership. Sean has taught me so much over the years. I can't believe it's been 5 to 6 years that we've known each other, but I just appreciate your consistency. You are the real deal, and you're producing, and it shows, and that's why I think you just get invited to speak everywhere, and why people who actually interact with you level up. Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers is top producers take action. So here's the action item for you. How many of you will implement the 4-H Club? How many of you, and like Sean said, he gave you a golden nugget there. You don't have to do all 5 handwritten notes to start. Just start with one. But the key is consistently do one every single day, 5 days a week, consistently. If you can't do quite as many comments as he's saying, what will you commit to? And then think about what I told you. Are you a person that keeps your word, that what you say, you actually do? Implement the 4-H Club. It will change your life. The difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.